Does pedigree matter in the Kentucky Derby? Some will say it does, some will say it doesn't, and nobody will have statistics. Well, I've got some statistics for you. Let's start by talking about the Dosage Index. Some of you older players will remember this. It got very popular in the 1980s, especially as part of what was known as a dual qualifier system. And this was looking at horses that were within 10 pounds of the top weight on the experimental free handicap that also had a dosage index of 4.00 or less. Sound convoluted? Yeah, it was. First of all, the experimental free handicap is really not a factor anymore. It was a way of rating the top horses after each season for a mythical race, and then they weighted them. It's not really used a whole lot. And the dosage index, the dirty little secret is it was largely back tested. So once you had the statistics going forward, it kind of fell apart. And you'll notice that in the graphic we've got up on the screen here, that in the past 25 years, 6 Derby winners have had a dosage index of over or greater than 4.00. That was kind of the cutoff for the dosage index. What does that tell you? Well, understand that most Derby entrants have a dosage index less than 4.00. So this could really be considered a positive factor. If you look at the dosage index since 1940, you'll notice that it's gradually gone up. And this, of course, basically reflects breeding in the United States, which is looking more for that brilliant, for that speed. The problem is when you breed real distance horses, a lot of them aren't that fast. It's endurance. It's kind of the difference between a Usain Bolt and a top miler who I can't even name because I only watch the sprints. But if you watch, a sprint race in the Olympics, it's a whole lot different. The builds of the athletes are a whole lot different than the builds you're going to see in a mile race. Same is true of racehorses. So you see this gradual progression of that dosage index. When looking at the LSR, that's my late speed rations, they measure late energy disbursement. And here it's the higher the figure, the better. And so you see that it's actually gone down. Once again, emphasizing the fact that stamina has become less a part of the American game. For heaven's sakes, they're even talking about changing the Derby to a mile and an eighth. So all of these trends in breeding have kind of eroded the value of the dosage index, eroded the value of stamina. Now, why do I say that? I've got some other metrics to show you. Take a look at the BRIS distance rating. Here you're looking at the higher the figure, the more stamina, the lower the figure, less stamina. You'll see from the 1 to 104 range. So in other words, the horse had to have been given a BRIS distance rating. Not all horses are, especially foreign horses. Just 1 for 44. So you might think that you definitely don't want to play horses that have low ratings. I don't know. That's a really small sample size. And if you look at the return there, it's actually higher than the more endurance type ratings, which are 115 and greater. You see a 51-cent return, 98-cent return, so almost double for horses considered to not have stamina. And really the sweet spot is in the middle there. Now, I bring this up too because in my last video, I talked about profitability and probability. I talk about it all the time. Nobody seems to get it. As a general rule, if you hear about a factor or you think you know something in a speculative endeavor, be it investing in the stock market, sports betting, whatever, other people are going to know it too, and it erodes the value. People tend to bet on things they think they know. And I say think they know because most people don't test anything. But that's why you can't just say, well, this is a positive. A horse that's ridden by this jockey, well, they're going to win more often. Yes, jockeys are a great example, in fact. They absolutely correlate, like better jockeys correlate to higher winning percentages. They do not correlate to higher profits. So keep that in mind as we look at these figures because it really is eye-opening. Let's talk a little bit about auction price. This is something else I heard on my last video about horses that were highly regarded as juveniles. And you always hear it in horse racing, by the way. Only horse racing. Nobody's supposed to have an opinion about anything. Like we can easily say that, hey, I don't like Zach Wilson as a quarterback. He sucks. Now, first of all, Zach Wilson is a pro quarterback, so he doesn't suck. But we're okay saying that. Boy, if you say you don't like Todd Pletcher, as I have a few times. And it's not that I don't like him. It's just in certain instances, I would prefer another trainer. And yet, what comes out is, have you ever trained racehorses? What do you know about this? Have you trained a Derby winner? No, I'm betting on these races, so you have to make judgments. So look at here. Auction price of $500,000 or more. 1 for 37 in the Kentucky Derby. This is since 1997, and Brisnet didn't have all the data, so there might be some missing years or just missing data in this data set. But 1 for 37, a return of 21 cents per $2 bet. Think about that for a second. Horses that went to auction or sold at auction for $250,000 to $499,000, 4 of 66. That's a 1.05 IV. So here you notice the impact value is better than normal. So these horses are winning more often than they should. They're returning 68 cents per $2 wager. If you look at horses that went to auction for $1 to $249,000, meaning they went to auction, that's the whole idea here. You see the IV is less, 0.81 compared to 1.05, but a $1.82 net return. That's only a 9% loss, so that's better than just playing the favorite. So that's actually a positive statistic. And once again, it points to the difference between probability and profitability. It really shows when it comes to the stud fee. Check this out. Horses that came from a sire with a current stud fee of $250,000 or more, zip for 13 in the Kentucky Derby. I'll be honest, that's too small of a sample size to really draw any conclusions, but it is still illuminating. If you look at stud fees from $100,000 to $249,000, 3 of 57, that's a 0.58 impact value, 58 cents per $2 bet. And by the way, look at the progression of these returns as you get to the worst stats. Notice how it keeps going up. Again, making the point. So I'm not going to go through each one of these, but you can see 50 to 99,000, you've got a 0.62 impact value, but $1.27. And when you get to $24,000 or no stud fee whatsoever. And by the way, those are a lot of times the horses to really keep an eye on because those are the homebreds in a lot of cases. But you see that the impact value a little bit less than normal, but take a look at those returns. So when it comes to pedigree in the Kentucky Derby, does it matter? A little bit. But I think there are far more important factors to consider. And hopefully this illuminates that a little bit. Thank you for watching and I hope you have a great Derby.